This is TWiT.
Hey, I'm Rod Pyle, editor-in-chief of Ad Astra Magazine, and each week I join with my co-host to bring you This Week in Space, the latest and greatest news from the final frontier. We talk to NASA chiefs, space scientists, engineers, educators, and artists, and sometimes we just shoot the breeze over what's hot and what's not in space, books, and TV. And we do it all for you, our fellow true believers. So whether you're an armchair adventurer or waiting for your turn to grab a slot in Elon's Mars rocket, join us on This Week in Space and be part of the greatest adventure of all time.
We're going to begin hearing of more instances of these sorts of reactions from the U.S. federal government, and over time, it will become widely known that companies cannot simply ignore their security responsibilities with impunity. On Halloween, the FTC's business blog post was titled, "Multiple Data Breaches Suggest Educational Technology Company Chegg, Chegg, didn't do its homework," alleges the FTC. Now, we'll forgive the FTC for being cute about an educational company not doing its homework. But the points made in their blog posting about this were instructive. The FTC wrote, Chegg, Inc. sells educational products and services directly to high school and college students. That includes renting textbooks, guiding customers in their search for scholarships, and offering online tutoring. But according to the FTC, the ed tech company's lax security practices resulted in 4 separate data breaches in a span of just a few years, leading to the misappropriation of personal information about approximately 40 million consumers. The FTC complaint and some notable provisions in the proposed settlement suggest that it's time for a data security refresher course, again with the educational approach, at Chegg. Are there lessons your company can learn, the FTC posits or wonders, from where the FTC says Chegg failed to make the grade? Okay. In the course of its business, so here's what happened. California-based Chegg collected, they said, the FTC said, a treasure trove of personal information about many of its customers, including their religious affiliation, heritage, date of birth, sexual orientation, disabilities, and parents' income.
Why do they have my sexual orientation in the first place?
Exactly.
What the hell is that?
Exactly.
They're doing textbooks.
Yes. I know. Even the Chegg employee in charge of cybersecurity described the data gathered as part of its scholarship service, scholarship search service as, quote, very sensitive.
Yeah, so there might be a scholarship for queer scholars or something like that. So you'd have to give them that information, I guess, to find those scholarships.
In order to qualify, right.
It is. It's very sensitive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they and 4 breaches. I mean, it's very sensitive, and they're not treating it responsibly. But wait till you hear, Leo. It's unbelievable. A key component of Chegg's information technology infrastructure was Simple Storage Service (S3).
Oh boy.
A cloud service.
S3 buckets can be secure, but they're often not.
A cloud service offered by Amazon Web Services, AWS, that Chegg used to store a substantial amount of customer and employee data. The full complaint provides all the details, but the FTC cites a number of examples of what Chegg did and didn't do that were indicative of the company's lax security practices. For example, the FTC alleges that Chegg allowed employees and third-party contractors to access the S3 databases with a single access key that provided full administrative privileges over all information. Chegg did not require multi-factor authentication for account access to the S3 databases. rather than encrypting the data, Chegg stored users' and employees' personal information in plain text. Until at least April of 2018, Chegg protected, they have that in air quotes, passwords with outdated cryptographic hash functions. Until at least April 2020, Chegg failed to provide adequate data security training for employees and contractors. Chegg didn't have processes in place for inventorying and deleting customers' and employees' personal information once there was no longer a business need to maintain it. In other words, it just kept accruing the data ad infinitum. Chegg failed to monitor its networks adequately for unauthorized attempts to sneak in and illegally transfer sensitive data out of its systems. In other words, across the board, your basic do the minimum possible laziness. The report continues. Should it come as a surprise that the complaint recounts 4 separate episodes that led to the illegal exposure of personal information? Incident 1 stemmed from a Chegg employee falling for a phishing attack that allowed a data thief access to the employee's direct deposit payroll information. Incident 2 involved a former contractor who used Chegg's AWS credential, the one credential, to grab sensitive material from one of the company's S3 databases, information that ultimately found its way onto a public website. Then came Incident 3, a phishing attack that took in a senior Chegg executive that allowed the intruder to bypass the company's multi-factor email authentication system. Once in the executive's email box, the intruder had access to personal information about consumers, including financial and medical information. And incident number 4, a senior employee responsible for payroll fell for another phishing attack, thereby giving the intruder access to the company's payroll system. The intruder left with the W-2 information of approximately 700 current and former employees, including their birth dates and social security numbers.
Oh, God.
In each of the 4 incidents cited in the complaint, the FTC alleges that Chegg had failed to take simple precautionary steps that would have likely helped prevent or detect the threat to consumer and employee data. For example, requiring employees to take data security training on the telltale signs of a phishing attempt. Because they fell for it 4 times, and nobody ever learned any lessons. No actions were taken as a consequence of those. To settle the case, boy, they've gotten off easy. Chegg has agreed to a comprehensive restructuring of its data protection practices. As part of the proposed order, Chegg must follow a schedule that sets out the personal information it collects, why it collects the information, and when it will delete the data. In addition, Chegg must give customers access to the information collected about them and honor requests to delete the data. Chegg must also provide customers and employees with 2-factor authentication or other authentication method to help protect their accounts. So it's going to get better, but this is just, a toothpick in a haystack, right? In this largely still unregulated industry, we're operating in a Wild West mode with non-existent oversight until failures are egregious enough to bring governmental scrutiny. And how many of these incidents were caused by employees falling for phishing schemes? All 4 of them, even an exec did. Yet there was no training provided. The reason is none of those breaches directly affected Chegg's bottom line. 40 million of their customers had highly sensitive data revealed. Well, we're very sorry about that. Okay, right. Well, I'm not one who believes in government overreach and having Uncle Sam rummaging around in our private corporate businesses, but self-regulation isn't going to work here. One solution would be to only provide tools that provide security. Then at least security wouldn't need to be added on as an optional afterthought. But as we all well know, we're not there yet.